So thank you so much. And I think just Jacqueline, handing over to you to talk about how you did that with a particularly tricky building in a very lovely park, in a sort of neglected corner of the park. It'd be really good to hear from you now. Thank you.
Thank you, and hello everybody, it's lovely to be here. So I'm going to share my presentation. Bear with me a moment, see if I get this right. From beginning, yeah, there we go. Okay, so I am Jacqueline, and I'm one of the co-founders of a theatre company and arts organisation called Stiltskin, and I work with my husband. We've been working for 21 years, which a lot of people are usually quite astounded by, but it's a good relationship. We do well. So I've just got to work out how I move on. Okay, so we started out as a street theatre company, and we actually started out with a commission with the picture that you can see of the two black and white individuals. And that was a commission from Plymouth City Council, and that started us on our journey, really. With our street theatre, we wanted to bring theatre to the community, to interrupt people's everyday lives. And so they would be walking down the street and suddenly meet some very strange characters that kind of introduced themselves and chatted about bizarre things. And it was just about people sort of like engaging with the arts in very different places and enriching and enlivening places. In 2002, we had our first child, a little boy, and so that actually made us start to work more in our local area in Plymouth. So rather than touring theatre and touring around to different festivals and things, we started to really concentrate on working in schools and working on giant theatre and art projects. And so we engaged a lot of school children in theatre projects. We did a lot of residencies in schools, all in Plymouth, toured around schools in Plymouth. And this is a project where we had 100 children on a local beach doing a massive theatre show using huge puppets and things like that. And it was just engaging children in the arts, getting them excited. But this project was also about letting the people of Plymouth know that there are, I think there's about 7 beaches around Plymouth. People normally travel out of Plymouth to go to the beach, whereas actually we do have beaches here as well. So sort of just letting people know that what Plymouth actually has to offer. And then we became artistic directors for some very big parades. This was the Lord Mayor's Day parade, and we were the artistic directors for the children's side of it. So we worked with 300 children for each parade. The secondary school children, young people, they made these giant puppets, and then the primary school children made their costumes and masks, and we brought everybody together, and it's a huge celebration of our community. And all of the things that we created were based around the heritage of Plymouth. So children actually got the story about what we were, the heritage, as well as being part of the celebration. And we also created some big sort of giant parades for the Christmas show, Christmas lantern parades. These started out with 80 children to begin with, and our final parade that we did in 2014 had over 1,000 people actually in the parade. So it was something that we really built up, and a really fantastic celebration of Plymouth, really, and of the people within the city. And there you go, there's the polar bear, you can see him there, that's the lantern parade coming through the Drake Circus. You can see how fantastic it was. And inside these giant structures here are actually young people that were 12-year-old people, and they were actually walking around with these giant puppets. So They quite spectacular, and we had other young people going up to them and saying, there's actually a kid in there, whoa, you know. So it was really very, very empowering for those young people to be doing something like this. In 2014, we sort of came across this building in Devonport Park. It's a mustard gas decontamination unit. That's what it was built as in 1941. And there were 6 of them across Plymouth, and the others have been demolished. This was meant to be demolished in the 1980s, but it was Devon Council at the time that actually demolished the wrong building. They took down a very nice Victorian tennis court building and left this one. And we were looking for a home because we travelled around a lot, travelled around the schools. When we were doing the giant structures, we found ourselves trying to find space, and the structures were getting bigger. We were making more of them. So we were looking for a home, and we wanted somewhere that had a garden. And this building is based in a corner that had been forgotten about, really, in Devonport Park, which is one of the oldest, well, I think it is the oldest parks in Plymouth. It's a Victorian park. It's all very lovely, and it had a massive regeneration about 8 years ago, but this corner was forgotten. And so this building was locked up for 4 years. And as you can see, sort of falling apart, really. And it was used around the back area. It was used by drug addicts to go back there to do what they needed to do, but it's also a human toilet, things like that. So it wasn't very pleasant, but we had a bit of a vision when we found it. This is what it looked like inside. You can see our giant structures there, but it was just a big open space that had been stripped out by the previous leaseholders, who were the model railway enthusiasts. And when we walked in, we just immediately recognised that we could do something quite exciting with the building, and started to think about how we could engage the community with the building, especially children and young people, how we could use the space as a big workshop area, but also a space where children could engage in drama activities. And so we were given the building as on lease by the council. We had to go through quite a lot of legal jargon that we had no idea what it meant. We didn't understand half the lease, but a lot of emails that had very unusual language in it that we had no idea what they were talking about. But we wanted to just get on and do it, so we did, and just sort of like kind of ignored what they were saying in a way, because just sort of like had to look up lots of things. But eventually we managed to lease the building, and you can see it's a bit grubby, but this is what it looks like today. So we had our first crowdfunding campaign, and this is where we realized that we were onto something that people could really understand the vision that we had. So when we sent out the crowdfunding campaign, we were overwhelmed by how people reacted, and we managed to raise, I think it was within 2 weeks, we managed to raise over our £7,000 goal. We did have this city change fund that supported the crowdfunding as well. It's where the city give half of their funding if you get to a certain percentage, certain amount. I think it's 25% within a few days. So we managed to get there, and so that crowdfunding actually helped to support putting in the carpet, so that when children did workshops, they weren't rolling around on a concrete floor, and we put in all the blacks, and it just created such a fantastic space. Really, really exciting. I forgot to say that this is a children's theatre, so it's very, very small, but absolutely ideal for children. It had, when we first moved in, it had no running water and no toilets. So we had a portaloo that used to sit out the front here. And every day it was like camping. We had to bring in our water, take our washing up home. So for 4 years, our house was full of washing up and water cans and all sorts of things. But being as tenacious as we were, we just kept going. This is our Portaloo, but as you can see, we experienced some very interesting times when we had things like our Portaloo was actually set on fire. There were quite a few times when it was pushed over, so you can see there's a big chain around this one, even though this one was set on fire. Again, our community kind of worked with us, and we raised £800 to replace the Portaloo. So, you know, it's really fantastic to have all that community support. And then we received Social Enterprise Investment Fund to start to develop the facade really of the building, to sort of show to everybody that it wasn't a toilet. And there were things happening in this building, wonderful things happening, magical things happening, where children from as young as 6 months old actually came to watch theatre shows, came to festivals, young children came to do workshops. And so we began to develop the front, and we also built, you can just see in the corner there, we built toilets, and we dug a huge trench right across the park to bring in the water, which was quite interesting. And this is what the building looks like today from the outside. So we're feel quite excited that we've actually managed to rejuvenate this very tired, sad corner of the park into something quite lovely and very much loved by ourselves and hopefully our community. I believe they do love it. So we do lots of workshops in there for young children. You can see these guys on the right, they're actually doing a shadow puppet play. These guys have got their masks on. We run and we do lots of shows ourselves. It's myself and my partner. And we run things like family raves, where we have tiny children coming in and raving with their parents. They're great fun. And we also have a nod to the heritage of the building. So we run a World War II project every year with schools. We evacuate schools to the building, and they come dressed in all of their World War II things, and they do lots of activities to do with the building. We use the park as well, so it's one of the things that we really are quite up on, is using our space outside, getting children outside, and especially at this moment in time, rewilding children, getting children to be out in all sorts of weather. So come rain or shine, we're out there, and we do festivals for children, and we work with children and families from a tiny age. Our youngest child we've had in the theatre has been 4 days old, which is really quite thrilling actually. And we work right the way through to young people. We have a young people's board, and they get the opportunity to use the theatre twice a year and to put something on that they feel is relevant for their peers, and they actually organise those events and run them. With COVID, we aren't allowed to use the building at the moment. We haven't been able to use the inside the building since last March the 17th. We completely closed down. So we had to kind of come up with a new idea of how to use our space. So we worked with the council to license the outside area. So with the council, usually if you want to use the parks, we have to apply every time we want to use the park for a different event. But by talking to the council, explaining what we needed to do, they agreed if we licensed the outside area, then we could use that area when we needed to. We do have an alcohol license as well, so we can use that area if we need to for comedy clubs and things like that. But in order to sort of like get our audience in, we needed to create an auditorium that was covered. So we came up with the idea of using these little teepees. So these teepees are a family can sit inside a teepee. I did have a photo of a family inside a teepee, but I've gone on. I don't have to get back to. You might come across it in a minute. But by doing that as well, we're also able to open up the site for touring companies. So last summer, there were touring companies were their income was totally devastated because they couldn't tour into theatre spaces. But by enabling them to use this space, then we were enabling theatre to continue, really. So a lot of theatres were closed down, but we just kept going throughout the summer, and allowed people to come in, and the community were absolutely delighted to be able to come and watch theatre shows and just to have a little bit of sort of like normality and get away from screens. So that was really special. We around the back, this is the area that I said before that was used by the drug users. It was it's got this beautiful little copse of very old trees that we really wanted to celebrate. And so we've started to create a community art garden out here. And the council have given us the permission to use this space when we need to, and to plant what we want to plant in it to just enhance it. And I think the council have realised that by allowing us to do this, allowing us to create something for the community, we're rejuvenating the space, we're putting something back into it, putting pride into the community. And also it's a space where there's a lot of, because we're in Devonport, it's one of the poorest communities in Plymouth. It's a space where people who don't have gardens, they can come here and feel safe, and experience the park in a different way to, the park has got, it's a wonderful park and it's got a children's playground, but by creating a community art garden, it's just a different look at how you can use a green space. So this is the start of it, and we've planted a 40-metre long fedge, which is a growing willow hedge, and it took us twice the time to plant this that it would normally, because it's right on the pathway. So we spent a great deal of time talking to people as they went past, and some very incredible conversations. We found out lots of history of people. We had discussions with people who said, oh, another fence, but then when they discovered why and how this, although
we lost Jacqueline there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a shame. Just getting into the bit about the fedge. Sounds really great.